Hello, everyone. I am checking some of the settings that I never pay attention to when I'm in Substack for a live. Yeah, awesome. So, what is this? There's interesting numbers on the screen that I've never paid attention to. Oh, like I'm paying attention to like the percentage of camera. Oh, this is fascinating. Okay, so I'm curious as I'm starting here, how many people, what's your morning drink of choice? Hi Heidi, hi Brenda. I'm a tea person, and my favorite is jasmine tea. But I'm doing a white tea right now instead of a green tea. I try not to get addicted to caffeine. I'm very picky about that. So sometimes I go through periods where I don't drink any caffeine for a while just because I don't like that my body becomes dependent on it. Today was a caffeine day. I'm looking at the time. I was here a little bit early, so I was giving it till 9:30. Also, I don't know if you guys are feeling this, but have y'all noticed this week? I've had this weirdest feeling where I'm not tired. I've slept well, and I get to there's like just out of the blue, I need to go lie down and check out. It is so weird. I was feeling it before this call. I was like, I mean, not this call, but this live. I was like, this is just the weirdest feeling. Like literally unplugged, go lie down, close your eyes, can't keep going. Okay, well, that's not a reality right now. So we're going to do this. I want to see myself not with glasses on this round, which I only need for close up. Okay, well, it's a pleasure to have you guys. Today, we are going to be talking about what is it that there's the difference between when we're asking who am I versus where am I. And so let's explore this a little bit together. And Heidi and Brenda, if there's something in particular that caught your attention on this, definitely drop it in the comments so I can kind of make sure I address that. I really like to personalize if I can. So there's this thing as we're growing up, and we are constantly searching for who am I? Who am I? What's my purpose in the world? What am I here to do? And there's a point in time where the question actually needs to shift. It's not about who am I anymore, but where am I on the trajectory of my life in terms of what I'm here to enjoy, to contribute, to develop. And let's talk you through some of that. There's a reason this happens. There is a reason it happens for everyone, but specifically for my people, when you're soul-led and you're really focusing on living a life in integrity, there is a turning point, and we can know it and have it help us as we move through this. So one of the reasons we ask, who am I, is because we often feel stuck. Stuck may be a strong word, but we're often trying to figure out, how do I put myself in my life in a way that I'm contributing, that I feel happy, that I feel loved, that I'm supporting other people? And for intuitives and empaths and women in business who are trying to help other people, we are already oriented to others and trying to make the biggest impact or help in the best way we can without compromising ourselves. And often I think we're exploring this question of who am I and what am I here to give the world? And those are really good questions. And we use lots of tools, right? I'm right there with you. We explore every avenue we can to understand ourselves and how to be better at what we do, happier in our lives, more supportive, make meaning and understand why our life feels the way it does in the ways that it does. Why do I have these problems? How can I improve myself? There's always this sense of who am I? And there's an undercurrent of improvement. We want more in our life. We want to feel more joy. We want to have more money. We want to reach the dreams we have. And somehow knowing who I am gives us relief. So I don't know about you, I've used tarot, I use human design, I've used astrology, I have used soul path work, soul quest work with my mentor, I've done inner work, I have explored every angle that I can get to about who am I. And human design was my best one, right? My greatest solution to all of this was human design because it was so, so simple for me because I only looked at the basics. And I loved that I could see that my soul was going to give me direction and I didn't have to have the final answer to who I am. And in human design, I actually don't have one big why. I cannot tell you how long I traveled the world trying to figure out what my one big why was. And when I realized that's not in my design, it was so much relief. And this was happening all in my early 40s, okay? And one of the reasons I bring this conversation up, and one of the big reasons I'm doing these lives, is to help people find a different way to understand their life after 40. So specifically from 40 to your late 50s. It was so hard living those years for me. I looked for every answer I could look for in order to make sense of something because I knew I had the skills, I knew I had the training, I knew I was on the right path, and nothing ever felt sorted. And so as I explore each of these lives, I'm really looking at how can we simplify things and give ourselves an orientation that really helps us anchor into the strengths of who we are and helps us grow with joy and ease and develop all the things we want for our life. That's just essentially what I'm trying to do. And it's really, really simple. It is about orientation. And so it's less about looking at what am I here to do? Who am I in this world? To find clarity, to find purpose, to find direction. That doesn't answer the question because our identity is always stable. Who we are is going to be stable. You can ask any of your friends. It's always great to do this. Go ask your friends. They'll tell you what your strengths are. They'll tell you what you're good at. They'll tell you what you've done well. They can tell you sometimes they'll tell you what to do, right? And they're usually spot on if they've known you really well. And so who you are and what you're contributing to the world is constant and consistent, and you have clarity. No matter how much you feel like you don't, we've always had clarity. It's our distrust of it and then not being able to put our clarity into a bigger picture to see the trajectory, to see where it's going. So this moment's clarity doesn't translate for the next moment. Good example, turn 40, all of a sudden the life you built that felt really clear, and this happens at different stages in time in your 40s, you think, what went wrong? I must not have been clear. That's not really what's going on. Life is changing and our seasons change. Rarely do we think of our life in terms of seasons, but we have seasons. We have very, very clear seasons that become extremely pronounced in our 40s and in our 50s. And those seasons really push us to do a different kind of growth. And that growth has to do more with orientation and self-referencing. And so orientation is a big theme that I keep talking about, is how do you orient yourself within your life now as you move forward? So when we're asking the question, right? So I'm looking at my notes to make sure I cover this right. Where am I in my life becomes much more important on the trajectory of your growth rather than who am I? Where am I becomes more important because you're looking at your life saying, where am I in my development as a person and as a soul? And is there a way that I can understand the next steps? Because what we did before 40 is a lot of what we were doing was achievement oriented, accomplishment oriented, proving ourselves oriented, meeting the needs of others oriented. We did a lot of these things, but after 40, you stop caring as much about that. You recognize that when I did things for others or for a measure in society that I thought would satisfy me, you realize it's not satisfying. I wanted to grow my business to $1 million. And then you get to your $1 million and you feel like it's unfulfilling, or you didn't get to $1 million and you feel like you failed. Those are not the measures of a life. The measures of a life have to do with how we move through our life. And the way I see it is how we move through our life in relationship to what our soul has asked of this life from us. So the question is, where are you on your trajectory And there are answers for that. That's what's so wonderful. I did not know there were answers. I did not know there were developmental stages. I did not know that your soul actually had a pretty nice path in plan for you. And there was still going to be creativity and mystery and self-awareness that's going to happen in the middle of it. But when you realize I'm moving on a seasonal chart, moving on a direction, there is a map. This time in life is to develop this. And this time in life is to develop this. And it's oriented to a soul, to your soul, and it's specific to you. This is what I love about this. So it was less about my identity by the time I hit 40 and far, far more about where am I in the larger arc of my life. And one of the things that I talk about consistently, and I've been talking about, is there's a soul arc. And the one I've been focusing on is the 40 to second Saturn return. So I'm going to assume you know a little bit about astrology. You don't have to know a lot, but I use the language to help orient ourselves. Our souls have given us a clue all the time. There's always a clue somewhere if you can look for it. And in astrology, the clue is your North Node. And your North Node takes over, in my opinion, after 40. Every single aspect of the hardship or the challenge or the questions you have in your 40s are a function of your soul saying, take a look at this part of you because I want you to lead from here. I want you to listen to this and be this and grow this because that's how you'll expand your life. So where you are depends on whether or not you're closer to 50 or after 50. We'll simplify it. If you're in your early 40s, it's definitely about dissolving everything that you constructed in terms of beliefs and expectations and finding your way to what is really, truly important to you and not measured by others, the rest of society. And then your mid 40s, you have a little shift in that. And then as you get to your late 40s and straight up to 50, it's about if you didn't deal with your core wounds, let's deal with them now because your core wound is your greatest strength. And if you haven't done that, you should. So there's this way that we have a trajectory. So the question now becomes when you're wrestling with something is, where am I on my trajectory? And assume that you've been on course the whole time. And that's one of the things I try to really reinforce is you've been on course the whole time. If you can look back at your life and assess, I've been on course the whole time, and then you still feel uncomfortable and unhappy about it, which is what I did, because my life was not where I wanted it to be when I was in my 40s. I did not have my business thriving. I was in a difficult relationship with somebody. I had most of my life focused on my kids at that time, and I couldn't figure out how I was supposed to satisfy or fulfill my own needs in the middle of everybody else wanting something from me. And I judged myself so harshly in that I questioned, did I not commit well enough? Am I on the wrong path? I've done things wrong. Boy, I love that one. That has been my greatest, I did something wrong. And so the more you stay in this place of feeling like something's wrong or that you're doing something wrong or you don't have it figured out, it keeps you not noticing where you can find the path. And because most of us try to find the path by doing what we've done, we miss that what you need to do is probably the opposite of what you've been doing. And that is life-changing. When you realize your soul is asking you to develop an entirely different set of skills this go around, it helps you realize why things weren't working. So I hope this is helpful. This is really about addressing, there's so many ways that we're looking at our life and trying to understand, I don't understand why I'm here still. Why is it that what I try is off? And if the question is, you're still wondering about your purpose, that's not the thing. The thing is, where am I on the growth cycle of my soul? And how can you find the answer? I have different programs that work through this, but we all can find our answer. Your soul is asking you to grow. Whether you use tarot or human design or astrology, there's an answer when you flip it to where am I on my growth trajectory and start looking at some pivot points. And I'll give you 2 to pay attention to. If you're in your 40s, pay attention to everything that feels scary, because the scary parts are the things that you're trying to develop into strengths. So if it's scary, my theory is walk right into it and deal with it, because you don't want to be dealing with it at 50, because you will be forced to deal with your core fears there. And that's the point where if you've been dismantling them and facing all your fears, then that time period doesn't pinch as hard. That's for the 40s. If you're in your 50s, I would say start paying attention to all the things that you don't want to carry forward. And by things that you don't want to carry forward, I mean things like, are you claiming your power? Are you owning your sovereignty? Are you making choices just for you? Not trying to be a good person in the world or trying to be good for your family. Do you know what's truly important to you, and are you backing yourself? Because when you hit your second Saturn return at the end of your 50s, if you don't have that sorted, you are not going to like what comes. It's not punishment. It's just like really intense, squishy points where you have to go through a really tight tunnel because you're carrying too much that wasn't intended for you to carry at that time. You can certainly get through there and find a way through with all of that, and you'll be dealing with it afterwards because we always have choice, right? But those are my short points, short, like simple orientation messages. That's what'll help you make it through these times when you're in your 40s and 50s from a soul perspective. So I'm wrapping up here. I think I've covered what I wanted to cover here. Question is, what if you've been asking the wrong question? And what if the answer was, what is this season asking of me? And how would I find the answer to that? I cover it through the soul arc. I've been covering it on my Substack. You're welcome to go listen to some of my Substack articles. And I'll be covering it as we go through this. So the next episode, we're going to be talking about why wisdom doesn't automatically become direction, which really speaks a lot to the whole idea of what we've built up for ourselves in terms of strength and competence and excellence and credentials and training. Why do they not seem to be enough or work the way we want them to or line up like we need them to in order for our life to feel happy and productive and meaningful and safe and all the things we want it to be? And it's not our direction. So we'll talk more about that on the next episode. So checking in with Heidi and Brenda, is there anything you want to ask? Is there anything you want to explore? Do you have questions? Finally get to have my tea because I got going there. Okay, well, I'm going to let this go unless you guys have something you want to share or ask. And I'm going to be back tomorrow, but at a different time. So, and I'm going to schedule a few more out and I'll offer them for you all so that you can choose to come to the ones that light you up. All right. Take care, y'all. It's been a pleasure.